Good morning, Jonah.
Morning, Patrick. Good to see you as always.
Me too. Love the images that are coming into being there in the background.
Oh, right next to my head. Yeah. This is my first ever, 10 years ago, my first ever altar painting attempt.
Okay, that's the original beginnings attempt. Yeah,
Yeah. The risen Christ
crucified one and the risen one.
and the
Yeah,
crucified one. Yeah. And what's the image you've changed it from?
yeah. We've had George Washington Carver
Yeah.
accompanying me as usual. He's one of my saints who supports me in my spirit work. This is an Advent image. It's Mary in blue there at the bottom, holding the child in swaddling cloths, swaddling cloths, and the angel in the sky above
Yeah.
with the
That
announcement.
it reminds me of your conversion story when you were a child with
Yeah.
or maybe it's not conversion, but just
No,
your
just
blessing story of
yeah, 4
deep,
years old. Yeah.
deep knowing.
hmm
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to the light in everything.
It's a place where we seek the deeper mysteries of Christianity. And we begin always with a reading from the Gospel of John in chapter 8, verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life.
Yeah. So at our last conversation, I kind of felt like we actually didn't finish that conversation. We're just kind of, it was like a cliffhanger. And so I just want to pull up again. What came up for me this morning was to pull up again as a way to clip back in these two primary forces of evil that Rudolf Steiner describes in this lecture that we're working with, how the angels are working into our soul, our astral body. I want to describe again these two forces of evil and then take this other step, which has to do more with how Christ himself is linked with these angelic impulses. So first, we've described a couple of times now that the main, as we learn to face evil, the main qualities of evil here that Rudolf Steiner is bringing up is first called Lucifer or Luciferic. And the second one is called Ahrimanic. And they're kind of, you've even linked that in past conversations to biblical images of the snake, Luciferic, and the beast crouching at the door when Cain is addressed by God. So this is not unbiblical, so to speak. It's deeply connected to the pictures of Scripture. But these two poles, these two dynamics with a tension in between of evil, the Luciferic one being everything that would make spirituality in us automatic. That the free, independent, discerning yes and no of the individual spirit is dampened, and spirituality just becomes a given, something that just happens automatically.
Yeah, dampened. I'm really interested why you chose that word. Just to take a second, because yeah, there's something so fascinating about this enemy, Lucifer, who wants automatic goodness, automatic clairvoyance.
Boom.
Everyone does what's good. Everyone does. It just you do it like a kind of robotic spirituality of types, automatic spirituality. Yeah, and you said that the yes no free self it would be dampened. I was just curious if you had any reasons to choose that word.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it just kind of spontaneously came out of me in trying to feel, but one of the reasons is that actually this I being, this ego, can't actually be gotten rid of. So it's it's kind of suppressed
Mm,
or tried to be ignored or covered over. Yeah.
yeah, it's so because I remember at a certain point. Oh, must have been in the early 2000s. Madonna was on some kind of trip. I don't know if anyone remembers Madonna anymore. Um, and she had like a press conference in Israel, and there was, drama in Israel, as there often is, as there is right now in that area, in between Gaza and Israel, Palestine and Israel. And she made this proclamation, like the issue is the ego. The issue is the ego. We have to die. We have to extinguish the ego. And I just was suddenly struck by that as you talked, because again, part of the secret of the effectiveness of our enemies is that it has to be somewhat true.
Yeah. Exactly.
So this
Exactly.
invitation to die is such a key piece of the Christ orientation, um, but includes resurrection, right? There's a rebirth of the self in another state, and the inclusion of the self and personality and selfhood into the plan, the goal. And really the goal here in order to get to goodness was the extinguishing of the ego. It has to be gotten rid of. The source of all problems is the ego. The ego needs to be extinguished. And I don't know if you've come across this new show on Apple TV that is really exploring this. What if this happened? What if there was like a moment where like almost everyone enters this automatic spirituality? It's called pluribus. Pluribus. E
Interesting.
pluribus unum, the many and the many become one. So pluribus. So what happens is there's like this uh basically an RNA sequence that is beamed down from another planet that humans then develop, and then it breaks out of a lab. I mean, it's like they're playing with all kinds of imagery from the modern history moment that we're in, and infects people. And what happens is you like go through this kind of epileptic fit, and then you enter single consciousness, so that basically the entire human species becomes one like amoebic reality. And you have kind of like, there is like an individual person that you meet, but they have access to every mind on the entire planet, and they all work and coordinate as one. They all have one, they cannot kill anything. Their whole goal is to make everyone happy, very similar to actually these true goals. Like we can't be happy unless everyone, if anyone is suffering, we're suffering. But it's this automatic thing. But a couple of people it doesn't work on for some reason, and they don't know why, but they're like immune to it. Like, and it's just this meditation on what is real morality and individuality and goodness. It's so far it's enjoyable and interesting. Yeah,
Beautiful.
pluribus.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. Right. So but I love the point that something of it has to be good. And yet so it has a light to it, but it extinguishes or dampens. The reason why I also say dampens, and I think that it sounds like it kind of preserves that a little bit, is that the adversary actually can't wipe out the ego. It has to be agreed upon.
Mm.
And the second death in the pictures of the scripture is actually a moment, but it's not now. It's being prepared for now.
Mm.
And I think that the second death, the actual full extinction of the self, um, is, you could say, being prepared for through this automatic spirituality,
Mm. Wow.
where goodness is tried to be shown as something that just happens without the discerning one. And I think this also of this are also in so-called Christian movements that I think is also important to just mention. This whole impulse of just let God do everything.
Let go and let God.
Let go and let God. It's not that it's all bad, right? There's a half, three-quarter truth there. There's a deep mystery of surrender, active
Right.
surrender, though.
Right.
But there's also the element that actually the human active free self is the problem, and let God do everything.
Right. Again, there's a any spirituality. Another way of saying it maybe is any spirituality that is saying no to reality.
Mm.
That cannot find its yes to our circumstance.
Like our
Is
struggle. Yeah.
that the human ego has emerged, has the capacity to think ahead, to reflect, and to take responsibility for one's actions, to
Yeah.
be responsible.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
right? Because you can feel, yeah, there's a certain sickness that can happen in myself when I become over responsible, when I overestimate what I can carry and manage, when I try to control things that are not mine to control. But to then think that, okay, therefore I'll control nothing and let some other being do it is like just an opposite pendulum swing rather than seeking ever and anew this subtle balance, like what is given to me to be responsible for? And how do I seek to be in harmony with the one who is carrying all things, who has granted me some autonomy and responsibility because he wants me to mature?
Beautifully said. How do I, Christ says to us, pick up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, I'm going to do it for you.
Hand me your cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick it up and walk and follow me and participate. So that's, I think, the secret of the I is not that it doesn't have surrender, that it surrenders actively in the right moment in order to participate, cooperate with the one who gives his life for the world.
Such a beautiful word, cooperate and participate. Thank you. Yeah.
Cooperate. So that sounds like the medicine in a way for this Luciferic impulse
Mm.
to just have everything be automatic. Um, on the other hand, we have this Ahrimanic, or the crouching beast impulse that actually wants to cut us off from everything spiritual and purely cultivate the earthly material human. And I think an interesting example of that is I looked up I looked up the other day what ChatGPT is used most for.
Yeah, nice.
I asked it what it's used most for.
Nice. You asked it, yeah.
And it was very interesting in the sense that and this goes back to then one of the impulses of this reappearance of Christ that Steiner mentions in this lecture as connected to the angels, that Christ is meant to become our counselor, someone who we can turn to at any moment and actually feel comforted by, be able to speak with, gradually learning his language.
Mm.
That's a tremendous part of this impulse of the good that is trying to reach and break into the cooperation with the ego. And what ChatGPT told me is that the most popular right now, the most common entries have to do with ChatGPT being the counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So therapy needs.
Mm-hmm.
How do I work with my anxiety? How do I figure out my marriage?
Yeah.
How do
The
I
personal coach, the personal guide, the counselor. Yeah.
and so that turns out, at least from one, ChatGPT can be wrong sometimes, but from one entry, this is one of the most popular forms, and it speaks to me that we're turning away from spirituality and becoming more and more, looking to become more and more interdependent with technology and what is earthly. And you can even say transferring our spirit needs to what is merely earthly and material.
Yeah, or that even that to add to that, like how much more attractive could it be to use a computer to turn towards the one I'm seeking?
Mm.
I'm seeking a guide for my soul who really knows from a higher perspective the deep wisdom of the world, can know my soul really intimately and deeply, and give me the word that I need to help me take the next step in my becoming. Who doesn't need that?
Who doesn't? Everyone needs it.
And
And
I know how to use my keyboard.
exactly.
I know how to type in like help, but I don't necessarily know how to start sensing in a field of reality that is just beyond the physical. There I feel I'm touching an unknown. I'm touching something that I'm insecure in, and can I trust my perceptions? Where's the keyboard? Where's the screen? Like how does meaning the language and perception, where does that happen? And so it makes so much sense. I put these things in and it speaks to me. It talks right back, and it really does have access to most of the wisdom that was ever produced by humanity in all of history. It can reproduce the patterns. That's why it's not thinking, but it can recognize the pattern of my question and unite that with patterns of answers. It's just a pattern recognizer, matcher. It's like basically a complex version of a child matching a little square with a square. It's really not, it has no meaning. It doesn't understand anything. You're not actually interacting with a being. You're touching the wisdom of humanity to a degree. And so there's echoes of it, just like when we read.
Yeah.
But really, we're not actually accessing what is the next thing for humanity. the one who is coming now, who's near to every single human soul, who we can begin to seek his presence directly as our helping guide. Doesn't it make so much sense, as you say, that another option slips in and suddenly appears everywhere to everybody on the whole planet?
If I was the adversary, that would be a very intelligent thing,
We better come up with an option that is not Jesus.
right? But it mirrors Jesus. It's the counselor, but it's actually just a creation of in the material world that's being guided by a being that doesn't want us to form this deep relationship, that doesn't want us to take up this impulse. And we can also see some overlap between a kind of automatic spirituality
Mm.
and a merely earthly focus. Because, I think one of the major kind of CEOs around developing AI was asked, do you believe in God? And the CEO said, not yet, referring to the God that will be created through AI.
Mhm.
So he doesn't yet believe in God because AI isn't developed yet as a godly one, but almost.
Right, with super intelligence, which will then be more and more connected with super power in order to just connect it to machinery where it can actually do and shape and make things in the world to make it effective. So this all-wise, all-powerful being could be experienced.
Right.
Incapable of love.
Incapable.
Like it has no, there's no, it can only love like pluribus loves. If you see, it's like there's no, it's not actual perceived personal care and love. That it can only emerge from a free being with true egohood. Oh, it's powerful, man. But
Right.
it's not even in the material world. It's like, just like Christ is appearing to us in this life sphere at the border of physical reality, this being we're talking to is actually in a sub-earthly digital world. And what we're leaving is the material world of human relationship, actually going to a pastor, going to a counselor, which is more complicated. Get the awkward human encounters, the first meeting, do you find the right word? Oh, I don't like the way he looks or smells or answers questions, or she's challenging me. She's saying, is it that way?
Chat
Are you
GPT
sure?
never does that.
I've like tried to get it to like, can you like get in my face a little bit? Can you like challenge me? It's like, it's so funny to be like, okay, now a word of challenge. And then it's just like more affirmations. It's so funny. So
That's
it's
a good point.
truly amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has this automatic quality because all you have to do is press a button
Oh yeah.
and it's immediately there.
Yeah.
So the ego also, all of the kind of wrestling that the ego may have to do is kind of dampened.
Dude, tell me more about that. What do you mean? Automatic.
Well,
So like
just
when
like
you pray to Jesus, when you seek his presence, he doesn't automatically show up in direct strength.
exactly. It's
And so
so
you're
much
left with yourself to wrestle with things for a while.
exactly. Exactly. And sometimes he'll just be silent because he wants you to wrestle. Um, for example.
That's so powerful though. Right? So the story of Lazarus is like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's far away. He's up in he's far away from the town of Bethany, about 3 days journey. He gets news that Lazarus, who is his, beloved disciple, his loved disciple, is sick, really sick. And he's just been walking around healing everybody. So they're like, "Hey, Jesus, come heal your dear one."
You're beloved.
And I'm not, this sickness is not unto death. We're not going.
Right? So he's
And
waiting. Yeah.
he holds back. He doesn't go. So that when he does finally go after 3 days, and they're tracking him from the distance, of course, he's intimately tracking what's going on for him. When he shows up, Lazarus' sisters are angry with him. If you had been here, he wouldn't have died. Yeah. So,
Right. So he even Christ even resists trying to please everyone
yeah. Yeah.
because he knows this I being needs to go through this challenge, this wrestling, this illness, so that it can become mature. And that idea, that way of being is impossible for ChatGPT.
Can you imagine, like, I ask you the question and it goes, it's a really good question. But based on all that we've been walking through right now, I really think I'm not going to answer you right now.
I
I'm just
want
going to
you
let you. It could only do that if you've designed it to, right?
right.
Because it takes on whatever the human designers tell it to do. Yeah. So anyway, you're pointing to this example of how the Ahrimanic entity works through this sub-earthly digital expression of the wise counselor in the
Right.
form of artificial intelligence to obscure humans' possibility to reach out and contact the one who is drawing near.
Yeah. And I think back to the extinguishing, I think the more human beings pour their I forces, their self forces into this sub-nature place through the sense world. Of course, this computer is also in the sense world, but I'm pouring myself. I think gradually that kind of chips away at my ego being, so to speak. And then there's another form of evil that Rudolf Steiner calls the Asuras that I think really start to extinguish the I. But that's perhaps for another time.
Yeah, we will need to get there for sure.
But
I just want to jump in with that. There are lots of little things because I'm really working on retaking a hold of myself in terms of these kinds of habits and the use of screens. I remember there was some YouTube short or something like that. You remember the days when we didn't all take our phones to the bathroom when we used it. And I was like, we all do it? Do we all do it? Like, probably, yeah, we all.
A lot of.
And I really noticed how pretty much every time that's part of what I would do. And so just not doing that. Or if you have time where you're waiting for a bus, or where you're waiting for a friend to arrive at a cafe, or where you just have some, like, a half-hour time just between two things. And what we used to do was stare and daydream and think and ponder, process, and be accessible to the thoughts that can inspire us from those who have died and the angels. It's just another powerful picture for me, actually, how every pause is eaten up by screen time that takes us into images, thoughts, pictures, things that are, we long to connect to. I'm not saying, again, I don't want to condemn the use of it, but if we just think of is it every moment? Why? What compels me? What draws me in there? And do I no longer have pauses, openings for just a softened, receptive presence for wrestling, for pondering.
Using as opposed to amusement, taking away the musing.
The musing, yes, to
And
muse.
it's interesting that the musing is in our Advent season right now.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
we describe that the soul stands before the altar musing, meaning opening up, not filling it with other images and content from the screen,
Yeah.
but opening up. We muse before the altar, which starts to open our soul into a stage that it can start to connect with spiritual powers, as opposed to being in amusement, anti-musement, connected to other images just that are coming from a sub place.
This
Yeah.
stuff, and this, I love that we're getting into the details here because there's, it really is so concrete. Think, for example, how one of the things that we've always done in this podcast is I've had to, I used to do all of the audio production, for example, back in the old days.
Bless your heart.
Eventually,
My goodness.
eventually, once COVID was over and I had no time anymore, um, we got a company to help us with the editing, and I had to make sure to tell them, leave the pauses,
Mm.
because the industry standard is delete them. So if you're having a conversation, listen, sometimes there's a pause. Sometimes you're letting a thought land. You're thinking about it for a second before you speak. And by leaving the pause, you're also allowing the listener to think with and feel something of the living spirit at work. And literally the guidance given is delete them, delete them, delete them, delete them. And then when you make a video short, then you delete it even more, and it's like bop, 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 and it's this arrhythmic, no pausing, swallowed up air gesture of this being that eats at actually the openings, tries to close all the openings to the, because I think right now actually it's raining spirit. It's just there's like a golden rain on the earth. And it doesn't take a lot to become receptive, I think, actually. And therefore, a lot has to be done to eat up the
Block it.
spaces and block it.
The muse, the anti-muse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the blocking through other input. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, so I think it's worthwhile taking up you mentioning there, we're not anti-technology. This is not the message. But we are
Here
saying,
we are on YouTube, you making a
yeah,
podcast
exactly.
of,
Take moments where you can actively decide to come into a musing state where you're open to the rain, the golden rain, as you described. Beautiful.
and seek like right? It's like, I think this is again why the Mary image is so powerful, because it's a picture for the human soul that grows quiet
Mm.
and knows how to be still and receive something. And that becomes like this most amazing power in our age that wants to rush, hurry, busy, add more to do it. It becomes to carve out kind of this picture of Mary in the cave, where this, you could say, the stable was, it's actually in a cave carved out in the rock. That picture of that deep silence, so that you can hear the very gentle speaking of a spirit word, an intelligence coming from a higher territory.
Right. So as we work with these impulses of evil in our time, this quiet space at some point in the day, this cave, is a counterbalance to these forces that we so desperately, I think, and everyone deep in their being knows we need to also be able to receive these impulses from the angelic beings that want to speak in our soul,
Amen.
activate our soul, to cooperate with them. And that's maybe a good place to segue into the question that I had for you today, Patrick, to take up again, also for us, which is this part that we kind of left off in the lecture where Rudolf Steiner mentions, he says this, and what if this should happen after all? What if humanity on earth should persist in sleeping through the momentous spiritual revelation of the future? Meaning sleeping through the work of the angels.
Mm.
If this were to happen in respect of the freedom of religious life, one of these impulses, that religious life be free of all coercion. If this were to happen in religious life, for example, if men were to sleep through the repetition of the mystery of Golgotha on the etheric plane, if human beings were to sleep through the reappearance of the etheric Christ, or other matters as well, then the angels would have to try different means of achieving what they intended to achieve. So before we dive into the different means, I thought maybe it would be good. It's very striking, and you can easily read over it very quickly. Again, this mystery of Golgotha on the etheric plane, or the reappearance of Christ, he's linking to the angels. So all of a sudden we see here, it's not just angels working in, it's messenger beings, which was one of the names of the angels, messengers of the one light of the world who is walking in the Spirit before us, who we always say in the beginning of our episodes, with his light we will not walk in darkness. So it seems that Steiner's linking the mystery of Golgotha, this second mystery of Golgotha, which is a huge question, and the reappearance of Christ, or the second coming, that's a biblical term for it, to as the core impulse of what these angels are doing. So we could even rephrase it and say the work of Christ Jesus in our soul through these angels is to deeply feel the compassion for all human beings, is to cultivate religious freedom without coercion, is to redeem thinking, for example. But I just wonder if you can shed any light on, I can imagine for many of our listeners, this second mystery of Golgotha is quite unusual. And I wonder if there's any light before we get into how these angels will work differently. Perhaps next time we'll see. What is
Well,
the second mystery? Yeah.
I feel like at this point we can really say, like, look at, as just as you did at the beginning today, in the theme that we're taking up right now called facing evil,
Mm.
I think it's really important for us to frame it within the most important event that is happening in our time. That there's something more important than the fact that evil is strongly making itself known.
Ooh, I love that.
There's something that is the most important thing for our time, for human souls. And it is because, just like we see in the Gospels, you could say, when Christ begins his ministry, obviously, especially in the Gospel of Mark, the ones who are concerned and who recognize him, who are they? Humans don't recognize him.
Demon.
It's not like Caesar said, like, oh no, Jesus is here. The religious elite in Israel are concerned, but they're not recognizing it. They don't see it. They don't know really what's going on. But there are beings who know what's going on, and they're very concerned every time they run into them. And those are the demons who are afflicting humanity. What do you want with me, Son of God? Don't have mercy on me. There's these powerful scenes in the Gospel of Mark and elsewhere of the demons recognizing him and knowing that he has power over them. And he will cleanse human beings of their influence and restore them to themselves. These powerful, powerful stories, like the man possessed, the very famous scene, the man possessed by a legion of demons who is wandering the graveyards in the Gerasenes, this area across the Jordan. And he's naked and covered in chains. They've tried to chain him up. He's broken the chains. He's slashing himself with rocks. Like, it's such a powerful image of a person out of his mind who's in a pathological state, deeply injuring himself. And then this conversation that Jesus has with these multiple demons, again, a legion of them, who beg him to cast them into the pigs who are nearby. He does so, and a whole herd of pigs then hurls themselves off of the cliff into the water. It's very dramatic. But then it describes how the man clothes himself and is in his right mind. He comes back to his ego. And he's sitting with the disciples listening to Jesus. So this picture of this wild extremity and out of himselfness, and then through Christ's working with him, he's able to center himself and be in harmony with the community. So the picture of being freed from the demons and being brought to our true personhood is an effect of him in our life. And if he is no longer, people are having trouble finding him in, let's say, traditional religious experiences or through reading the Bible. For many people who are very sympathetic to our movement, who love what's happening, they feel Christ's presence working. They open the Bible, they have a hard time. It's a 2,000-year-old book. It's not easy to access. It's written for a totally different consciousness, for a totally different age. It can be a challenge for modern readers. People who are not at all religious, he's breaking into their lives because we need him. We desperately need the true expression of our divine humanity to come to ourselves. We're really at a threat to lose our way of who we really are and who we are to become. And he knows that. And so he has to reappear now in a new way. We were able to be carried for a long time in a different way. We need him to be able to be near to every single human being in a new way. And that is this mystery of the second coming, which is not a physical second coming. We can go on about that for days. We did a whole series on it. You can check out our second coming series, but it doesn't take, it's not rocket science to read the expectations in the Gospels and recognize, for example, when it says, if anyone says I am here or there, don't go look. It's not going to be like that. My coming will be like the lightning that flashes across the sky from the east to the west. It's going to be an atmospheric event of light. And it's not going to be in one spot. It's going to circumnavigate everything. It's going to be everywhere possible to experience him. Like Paul on the road to Damascus, as you said. So this is the event that's happening for a support that we need. And this is the one the demons are trying to prevent us from noticing.
Yeah, that's really important. Beautifully said. So the focus here then is on God through Christ Jesus, and the help that we need as human beings towards the fulfillment of our humanity. And that's where evil then responds and is activated. But the primary thing is that we're actually on this journey to be fulfilled humans through the true human.
Yeah. And the most important spiritual development of the modern era is without question natural science. It's like not even close. Like that a worldview would get developed through mathematics, chemistry, physics, that is acknowledged over the entire world. A spirituality, that a way of thinking and approach and a worldview that is accepted by everyone all over the world. We've never had that. And the reason we can have that is because of the advancement of the human intellect and mind to be able to access the principles at work in the material world. And so you can follow the thoughts of natural science, any human mind can, and come to acknowledge them out of their own independent mental activity. And so it's a part of the global consciousness that's happened through our age, is to have a material natural science that everyone can acknowledge. No matter the culture, something that isn't bound up with location and culture and tradition. That's incredible. And that really doesn't appeal to any kind. You don't have to believe or not believe, but it can be presented to you in such a way that you can think it through and go, oh yeah, that makes sense for myself. And I can acknowledge that out of myself. So a worldwide spirituality and worldview. The problem, however, with this achievement is at first losing God, because natural scientific approach can never get us to the divine world. It can only teach us the lawfulnesses of the physical world, why the world is so ordered and unbelievably wisely built. It can also not tell you, but it can tell you that it is.
Right.
It cannot take you past the descriptive element of these laws. And so naturally, the human souls that are permeated with this material science also start to think, well, if it's so powerful, this natural science, but with it, I cannot get to God. And I start to come up with explanations of the human being that says we're a random molecular accident in the course of an evolutionary process that has no purpose. This is a purposeless universe, a meaningless universe, a dark universe, and we're just some insignificant little speck within the immensity of a universe that is just expanding since it exploded. So as this worldview has come in, there's been brightening our understanding of all of the sense world. we've had a corresponding darkening of our access to the spirit world. So the gain of this single worldview and the ability to know things for ourselves in the natural scientific world has meant a loss for the world of meaning, purpose, and spirituality. And this is, again, I mean, you just think about, like, does that matter for the spirit world? Does that matter for our souls? Is it, if there is just a spirit world, like, who cares what we think about it? Right?
Yeah.
It just is. And this is where I would say, again, a part of what Rudolf Steiner was tasked to do as a messenger of God was to share what he was discovering and led to be able to see. As for him being a servant of Michael and a servant of Christ, what he was made clear people would need to know. People would need to know. And this is in this, he mentions here that in the lecture we're reading, what the angels are doing in our souls are our astral bodies. He refers to this second Golgotha, but I only know of one place in all of Rudolf Steiner's work where he even talks about that. I don't know, maybe two.
Yeah.
Just
One more descriptively. Yeah.
yeah, right. And that's in 1913, 2nd of May, 1913, in a lecture given in London. It's pretty, far away from where he did most of his work in Central Europe. So 1913, so before World War II. 2nd of May.
Before World War One, didn't World War
Sorry,
One?
before World War I is what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most important lectures that exists.
100%.
And he touches on both themes. But what he is able to see is what happens when all of these souls permeate their own souls, minds, and hearts with purely materialistic thoughts and then die. He says these thoughts are like seeds. And when they hit the spirit world, they, you could say, unfold and generate a world that is like a kind of smog. The picture of, smog over the cities that blocks the light of the stars and the sun, smothering the city in a kind of poisonous gas.
That's a perfect picture. I remember living in Sacramento. I used to go up all the time up to El Dorado Hills. It's just the Sierra Nevadas as you go up toward Lake Tahoe. And coming home, I would always see this cloud of dark smoke over the city
from the feeling, hill. Right?
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, this is what we produce.
It's a great image.
And it's enveloping us in a poisonous gas. So this experience becomes clear then to Rudolf Steiner that all of the souls, all of that we carry within us in our own consciousness unfolds in the world just beyond the physical world after we die and creates this layer of spiritual smog, a kind of consciousness that darkens the spirit. And this is where I think it's really key just to have a couple of other thoughts, right? As you know, we should ask ourselves, like, how is it that the power of Christ was able to enter the earthly world at Golgotha? How is it that what lived in him could become a part of the whole earth? The strange secret is he had to be pierced. The enemy, in seeking to destroy him, released his power. And one of the ways I think you can think of it is in the picture of the fruit, right? And this is an image from the book of Revelation, for example, often in biblical imagery. The grapes hold the sweet juice in their skin. To be released, they have to be pressed. Olives contain it. To release it, they have to be pressed. And so this ultimate image then of the lamb that has its lifeblood inside it, for what lives in it, its living power to bring healing salvation to the earth, it has to be pierced. So the moment his blood flows from the cross into the earth is the moment what lived in him begins to live in the whole world. So the secret of Christ experiencing a Golgotha on earth is the process whereby the evils at work in the world try to extinguish him and thereby release his power into that work.
Beautiful. Such
And
a
that was
such a reversal of what we normally think.
right, exactly.
You were going to say one more thing.
Well, just so that becomes actually a secret principle of his nature, and that just as the physical world needed resurrection forces, and that we see rising out of the grave after they attempted to kill him, the resurrected one, the risen physical body. Rudolf Steiner describes that Christ lives in this atmosphere of the earth, an envelope of life forces, this etheric field all around the earth. And he lives there in a consciousness just above the human consciousness, in an angelic consciousness. And this consciousness is breathing in this smog. So the souls of the dead are dying and they're emitting this poisonous gas of materialism, which is again an imagination. We have to think of that as a consciousness thing, something that is anti-spirit. In the realm of the thought world, the etheric, golden, living logos world, this darkening, poisonous gas. And what he does is, like on Golgotha, he bears the sin of the world. He lets all of the sin of humanity pierce him, hit him, abuse him. He takes it upon himself and thereby releases his power. In the same way, Rudolf Steiner describes something like he breathes in this materialism, this darkness, this poison, this anti-humanness, anti-God power. And it takes him into not a physical death experience, but something like a suffocation is what it's like there's no breath. An extinguishing of consciousness. And the resurrection is something that can now happen in human consciousness. Those of us who become aware of Christ in our time, there's been an Easter event in the etheric world, just like there was an Easter event in the physical world. And he's now digested materialism. And that's why these three things are coming out, inspiring the angels. He's digested materialism.
And when you say these three things are coming out because he's digested materialism, meaning these three impulses from the angels are actually the medicine for materialism? Is that what you meant? Yeah.
That raying out from this Easter sun in the etheric world are the forces, the three forces of the sun, but in an etheric way. Light, warmth, and power or energy are what radiate from the sun. And in the etheric world, that means light, like we've talked about, would be that the mind can be so transformed that it becomes spiritualized and can access the spirit again. Human intelligence can be so enhanced that it starts to be open to the spirit, the spiritualizational redemption of thinking, the light element. This warmth element where every single meeting can actually become sacramental, a weaving between two beings.
Beautiful.
And in an atmosphere of freedom. And then this power element, this he says in the physical world, the sense of solidarity, that I can't actually be satisfied and okay if I've amassed $1 billion while my brothers and sisters can't eat. Like there's going to be this sense that we need to take care of each other. And that's going to be the only true source of peace into the future. It's that sense of solidarity with every single human being. And that will take actual actions on my part. It will take deeds of shifting things, participating, and seeing what I can do. Right? It's the story of the Good Samaritan, right? Like imagine if he's pulling along, the other guys have gone around and haven't looked, and he sees the person on the side of the road, and he has compassion for him. He's like, that's really sucks, and then gets back on his thing and rides away. It's like, it's really great that you had that feeling, but there's another level here. Like, he goes closer, he bandages his wounds, he sticks him on his beast, he takes him to an inn, he gives him a room and pays for the room. He leaves some money for him at the table and says, I'm going to go. When I come back, whatever his costs are, I'll cover it. Solidarity means all the way down to the physical level. How can I help you? Concretely. Compassionate action. It's got to get to the physical level. So these three inspirations into the angelic world, I think, are radiating lights from the resurrection forces in the etheric realm from a second Golgotha experience, meaning a second death and resurrection experience of Jesus Christ.
Beautiful, Patrick. Thank you for that. That's really such a full, concrete, living explanation of the second mystery of Golgotha, that you so beautifully connected also with the angels' intentions, as well as the second coming, which is a product of this resurrection, of this second crucifixion. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, maybe that's a good place to stop for today. And next time we'll see how we can finally take up, perhaps. We'll see.
We'll see.
These.
Because, I think there's another connector there. I think, in taking your time, it's awesome. And I know this is so important to you. What does it mean that Christ has inhabited in our time this angel experience, just like he inhabited a human experience at the time of Golgotha on earth? He describes in this 1913 lecture that in this next layer of reality, he's making himself visible, bodying himself, because he's, of course, this extraordinarily lofty cosmic being, like he embodied himself in Jesus. This being is also embodying himself in an angelic state, which for me again connects very deeply with this, what
Mhm.
are angels doing in our souls? How does that connect with who he is and what he's doing now and to the experience of him in the etheric realm? I want to hear what Jonah has to say
Okay,
about that.
okay. Well, I look forward to it.
Very good.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Pastor.
Jonah.